Let me ask you, if you're in business for yourself, what is the most valuable asset that you have, something you have a finite amount of? Drop a comment in the comment section down below. Go on, I'll wait. Finished? Cool. If you said time, you'd be absolutely right. We only have a finite amount of time, so anything we can do to make our lives more productive, faster, easier, smoother has to be a good thing. And today I want to show you a way in which you can do just that. Don't have to spend any money to get started, but once you start to save cash, you can invest a little bit back into this and improve your productivity even further. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about when you're building websites. There's various different stages to the whole process of working with a client. Things like creating your sitemap, your wireframe, actually doing a pitch deck if you're pitching for a larger project, something you may have to do, then actually taking those wireframes and realizing them as a final design. I'm going to show you some tools today that help you speed up this whole process. Now, while I take a look at using Brixies a little later, you can use whatever you want to substitute it. It doesn't really matter. It's more about understanding the concept than it is about the tools that you're going to use. So let's hit the ground running by taking a look at how we can speed up the first part of the overall process, which is taking a look at creating the sitemaps, wireframing, and maybe even supplying a design to a client to get feedback. So for this step, we're going to be using Relume. Now, Relume harnesses the power of AI. I know you're thinking, good God, Paul, is there anything that doesn't include AI? But in some instances, it makes a lot more sense than others. And in this example, it does actually make a lot of sense. So we're going to use this to create that sitemap. We're then going to take that sitemap, convert it into a wireframe. And then the third step is we're going to take that wireframe and we're going to show a mock-up of this, at which point you could stop and then hand this off to a client. But I'm going to take you even further than that. So let's take a look at probably the one of the most important things to start off with and just allay your fears that this is all about just affiliate. There's a free plan that starts at zero cost that gives you one project, one page. You can still export to Figma if you want to, if that's part of your design process. And you've got, there's just a bunch of stuff in there. Start off with this. This is what I did. And then if you want to upgrade, well, you have the options available. So I'm already going to go in and just log into my account. And once you're in your account, you've got a couple of different things you can do. You can go into your site builder, you can go into your Figma library, your Webflow library, or your React library. I'm not worried about those at the moment. Let's start off with the site builder. You can see I've already done a couple here, but let's forget about that. Let's start off with a fresh project. Now, there's two things you could do here. You could import from a URL, and that's going to look at what's already there. But what we want to do is we want to start from scratch. So we're going to say, new project. That's going to go and ask us some questions now. So we're going to fill a bit of basic information in, and that will then start building out the whole sitemap for us, which is the first part of the whole process in Relume. So once you've created your first project, the first thing you need to do is prompt the AI to tell it what the website is all about. The more info you can give here, the better, but you can always come in and change things afterwards. It's a starting point. So let's take a look. A sitemap prompt. Describe the company in a sentence or two to generate a sitemap. Cool. Let's do just that. So that's the info I'm going to put in. The number of pages I want, so you can start off with something simple like 1 to 5. We'll stick at that, but you can go up to 20 plus pages on here. Language, you can see we've got selection. We're going to choose English UK for mine, and then I'm going to hit generate the sitemap. It doesn't get much simpler. Let's do that. That's now going to create the sitemap and put in what sections it thinks are the best to create and fully flesh out those overall pages. Now, bear in mind, this is just a sitemap. There's no visuals or anything else here. This just allows you to kind of get a top-down view, I know, bit of jargon, top-down view of what the site will look like without the visual distractions. It's a great starting point and something that for bigger sites is absolutely worth the time invested. But because AI does it, you may as well do it anyway. It's a good starting point. Okay, so let's take a quick look at what we have here. There's our home page, and you can see it breaks it down into various different sections. We'll come back to that in a moment. Then you've got the additional pages. Now, by default, it'll always put like a blog and a blog post and things in there. If you don't want these, which in this example don't make any sense, just simply click the 3 dots, and from there, you've got some options. What we're going to do is we're just going to get rid of it. So let's just delete it. Same here, we'll delete that. And there we go. So now we have just 3 pages. Want to add another page in? Want to expand this whole setup? You can do just that. Want to add another one in? Let's say we want to put a contact one in. Click the plus. You can rename this. There we go, contact. And you'll see that each one of these is currently blank. So all we need to do is generate the content. If you want to do this manually and just input the sections you want to include, you can do. But if you want to just hit the ground running where you don't have to spend that time, hit generate content. It's going to do the same thing again. It's going to have these kind of global features, which is your nav bar and your footer. And then once you've done that, you keep on doing this until you get exactly what you want out of it. If you don't want certain sections, you can get rid of them. So let's say, for example, we don't want this benefit section or this testimonial section. We're a new business. We don't have any testimonials. You can click. You can move this around if you want to, or you can just press delete. And it's gone. If you want to, you can add more sections in. You get the idea how this works. You can click on any of these sections and you can see, we can say create a global section so we can make this available across our entire site, kind of like a template kind of thing. If you want to add a new section in, click the plus and then you can choose from a whole bunch of different sections. So let's just add a testimonial one back in. So we'll do a search for testimonial. There we go. We'll add that in. Let's say we've also got a team. We'll add teams in. Cool. Now let's move that around. And let's say the testimonials is a little bit further down, drag that down until we get it where we want. So just before the call to action. And each one of these sections explains what it's all about. So there's the first part for our wireframe. There's a lot more things you can do here, but I don't want to spend hours just focusing on all the different options. I want to give you a kind of feel for how this works. So let's just quickly generate these additional pages. So generate content. We'll say we're happy with how all of this looks. And if you want me to cover Relume in a lot more detail, let me have a comment in the comment section down below. And if enough people are interested, I'll create a video on it. Okay, so there's everything set up. There's all our pages. We could share this if we wanted to. But for now, we'll just keep it as it is. And we'll say this is stage 1 completed. Next up, we want to take a look at what this would look like in a more visual, kind of low fidelity kind of way. Wireframes are a great way of doing that. They strip out all styling, images and things, all those visual distractions, and just give you the basic component pieces. Well, let's just click on wireframe. And that will now build out the wireframe for all of those pages that we have, including the new contact page that I just created. And it looks at the content structure that we have inside our sitemap, and it will build the relevant sections out for us. So your call to action, your testimonials, your header, your hero section. You know, you kind of get the idea of what I'm talking about here. Before we move on, let's take a moment to have a message from today's video sponsor, OmniSend. Now, if you're looking for solid email marketing platform for your e-commerce store, look no further than OmniSend. Getting started is an absolute breeze. They offer some of the most affordable pricing on the market, and you can start with their free plan and experience premium features without spending a penny. It's the best quality to cost ratio you'll find anywhere. If you need help, rest assured, with OmniSend's award-winning customer support, you're always a priority. It's available 24/7, 365 days a year, and you'll get a response in less than 3 minutes, making you feel valued and important. Now, don't just take my word for it. OmniSend is a top-rated platform. With unbeatable pricing, powerful features, and exceptional support, the reviews speak for themselves. If you're ready to elevate your email marketing game, OmniSend is here to help. You could try OmniSend today and discover why they're the best choice for your e-commerce business. With unbeatable pricing, powerful features, and exceptional support. Link in the description down below. But again, none of this is written in stone. So once we've got this all set up, we can zoom in like you would inside something like Figma. Zoom in, let's say, for example, to our home page. There we go. So we can see there's our header section at the top. We can click on it. There's more options here. This is a global one, so it tells us this is global, and there's 4 instances across our 4 templates. It's a nav bar. You can replace this component if you want to. You can regenerate the copy. So let's say replace the component, and we can choose something different. Let's say we want more of a mega menu kind of look. Well, we'll select that, and we now have a mega menu inserted into it. You can't see it because it's kind of semi-interactive. Same thing goes here. If we want to change this entire section, we can click on the section and we can change it over. So we've got things like style. We change it to a card, normal, have a video inside there, have no background if we just want text and a color maybe, for example. You can have a form inside here. So you can easily customize the way this looks to get it closer to the end result that you want. Let's say you want to change this out to something different. You don't like the look of this. Well, simply come down, replace component, and choose one. Simple as that. It doesn't get much easier. Come down, say something like this look is more what we're after. There we go. And again, we can say we want to flip this around. We want our image on the left, text on the right. Let's say we don't like the copy that's being used. Let's select the copy there, for example, and regenerate it. If you want to, you can prompt it. You can tell it what you want. Let's just say we'll generate the content from here and let it kind of come up with something. There we go. So now we can easily generate content, change the design, tweak it to get exactly what the customer wants. And again, we can share this with the end user. So if we're working with a kind of collaborative environment with our client, we can send this over, we can get their feedback on it, we can make amendments before we move on to actually taking a look at the style guide and starting to build things out. So we're already saving a bunch of time by not building this inside your builder or using kind of pre-built templates and all those kinds of things. We're saving a bunch of time here, and we still have huge amounts of flexibility. So let's say we are 100% happy with this layout. And before we do move on, you can see you can also add additional sections inside here. So you're not limited to doing this just inside the sitemap. You can do it inside here as well. So maybe you want to drop in something like logos. We'll say we like the look of this one. We'll drop a logo section in. Boom, you have some logos inside it. You couldn't get much easier. So now we're happy with how everything looks. We want to kind of realize this in a more visual fashion. It's not going to be the end result, but it's a little closer to that end result. And again, it's a great way for maybe clients that don't have that much vision to be able to see what it'll look like with images. And you can upload their images and you can change the text and all those kinds of good things. So let's go into the style guide, still in beta, but it has been built upon since I took a look at this last time. So now, how does this work? Well, things are broken down into two different sections. On the left-hand side is your style guide, so your colors, your typography, those kinds of things. On the right-hand side is a visual representation based upon the wireframe and the sitemap that we've just created. So you can see there is our image on the left-hand side, our text on the right-hand side. There's the new section we've added in for our logos underneath. But let's say the client has company brand colors. Well, we don't want this red-violet. We want something different. Let's click on it and choose their color. You'll see it automatically also creates shades in pastel colors, midtones, deep colors, and so on. So lighter and darker shades and so on. So let's say for this example, the client is actually more of a teal kind of color. So let's push this over a little bit towards the greens and say this is the kind of color they want. Obviously, they probably have their dedicated hex color, but we're going to stick with this just as a visual kind of thing. And we'll say their second color is kind of more of a kind of warm yellowy orange, like a kind of gold color maybe, for example. And we'll say we're happy with those. Want to add additional colors in? You can do just that. Same thing goes down for the typography. They may have very specific typography. So in this example, you can see this is a Zen Maru Gothic. Well, let's click on it and let's say I know the font I want to use. So let's click, and let's say they are using Barlow. Let's just say we want to use Barlow. And now you can see Barlow is being used. So anywhere that the older font was being used, that will now be updated. Cool. You've got some UI styling. So you've got your buttons. You can see we can click on these and we can change them. So we may not want to have these rounded buttons. We may just want to have a little bit of a rounded corner like so. And we may want to have just this kind of flat button kind of effect. You can see anywhere that's using that now will pick up those colors. Same thing then goes for your cards and your images. You can click on here and you can customize the card and the images and how they're going to look. So there's the kind of first part. That's your style guide, as it were. That allows you to put your colors and things in. But now let's take a look at the actual mock-up. Let's expand this out by clicking this little sort of expansion. And now you can see we've got a full representation of our overall design with images placed in, the text is in there, any changes we made to the style guide are all now in place. So we have a great looking starting point, which again, like I say, we can hand off to the client to get their initial feedback. But we can go further. Who knew this? For example, let's say I don't like the color of this kind of like slightly insipid yellow color. If I hover over this, you'll see we get the option for different shades. So let's say we wanted this to be dark. You can see you can click on it. Want it to be more blue. You can view your shades by holding down the command key in this example. So we'll say we want this to be darker. And there we go. Darker again. Yet not a problem at all. And you'll see anywhere that's kind of using those colors and the kind of opposing colors will update accordingly to make sure that everything looks good and cohesive. Again, using inside the kind of brand colors you've got. So that already looks considerably better. Let's say we want to come up to the navigation at the top. Well, you want to add your own image in there? You want to add your own logo in there? Well, you can do just that. You can click to edit the logo and you can add your own logo in, upload images and so on. The other thing is as well, if you want to sort of just get inspiration, you don't really know what you want, hit the space bar and it will shuffle. So you can just kind of go through these until you find something you like. Or you can just click on a section and it will then kind of go through and do the same thing. This time it's just doing the section. So we can keep on doing this until we find something we want, or we could be very specific and intentional by using the options here. Same thing goes for this section. Let's view our shades and say we want this to be lighter. There we go. If you want to change the images, you can do. You can use this option and you can upload your own images. So at least you can customize this. So if the client has specific images and they want to envisage those in the design, you can add them in. You get the idea how all this works, hopefully. And then if you want to, you can check this out on mobile as well. So you can see, yep, that looks pretty cool. They can get an idea of what it's going to look like. And again, we can keep on tweaking. The other cool thing about this is you can actually create multiple concepts. So we can say, there's concept 1. We can now create a new concept. We can duplicate this one. And then we can apply those and share them with the end user, with our client. And we can also take a look at the pitch concepts, which we can create with 3 different concepts. We can send this over. They can click and take a full preview, give their feedback on anything that you've done, anything you've set up inside there. You get the whole concept of what you can do using Relume. I really like what this brings to the table, and the fact you can do this with a free account and you can start using this with clients, if you ask me, is a great no-brainer time saver. Check it out, link in the description down below. So once you've created this wireframe and you've set everything up, what's the next thing you go on to do? Well, there's a couple of things you could do. If you're a Figma user, you can export this over to Figma and then start making changes and customizing it. And if you're using something like Core Framework with Bricks or another framework that has that functionality built into Figma and you can connect all these things up, you could do that as well. Again, another stage to your workflow. If you're a Webflow user, you can also export this to Webflow. So you can design everything inside here, create your wireframes and so on, then offload that to Webflow and carry on the design process, which again is a massive time saver if that's the way that you want to work. For me, I don't use Webflow, I'm a Bricks user. So what can we do next? Before we take a look at how we can start to build these and realize them with the tools that I use, there's one other thing I want to quickly go over, and this is a super quick one. There may be times where you have to create a presentation and pitch to a client. This is especially true if you're dealing with tendering or you're dealing with larger organizations. They may have multiple different companies. They may want you to go in and pitch why you're the best particular person or company for that job. Well, this is where another AI-based tool called Gamma can come in super handy. This allows you to kind of create pitch decks. And pitch decks are basically like slideshows with information and so on included. Let me show you why this is super useful. So once you've logged into your free account, and I'm only using the free account here, so you can do exactly the same as I can, what we can do is we can create new, or we can start from a blank, or we can import one. So let's say we want to start new using AI. Now we can choose a couple of things. We want to paste in text, generate using AI, or import a file or URL. So we're going to say we want to generate, but if you've got text, maybe, for example, you've written some bullet points and some information you want to use in your presentation, drop those in there and use that. For us, though, we're simply going to use this option. So describe what you'd like. You can see we can create a presentation, a web page, a document, or social. We're going to stick to creating a presentation. The number of cards you want, as you can see, we can go to 10 with the free account. If you want to go above that, then you have to pay. I think 8 is probably more than enough for most use cases. Then you can choose the style you want, default, traditional, or tall, depending upon how you want to deliver this. If you're working with mobile, for example, you may want to use tall. You get the idea. Then we can choose the language that we want. The cool thing is I actually see this is supporting Welsh, which is quite interesting. We'll say English UK. Then we've got some example prompts. You can see underneath it tells us where it is. But let's put the prompt we want to use in here, following on from that same kind of prompt that we used to create things in Relume. There you go. Once we've had that in, we'll say generate outline. And to be honest, this is super quick. You can see this is going to go and generate the outline for us. We can then, in the meantime, choose the kind of style that we want. And this has all been in real time. I'm not doing anything here. So what we can do now is we can say we like the look of this particular one or this one. So let's just choose this one. Then you can say, how do you want this to be set up? Do you want it to be brief, medium, or detailed? We'll leave it at medium for this example. Do you want to use AI images? You can do if you want to. It'll generate those as well for you. It'll use credits. You can see in the bottom corner, I've got 360 credits. When I tested out, I used about 40 credits. So maybe about 6 to 8 credits per kind of sort of image that's generated. You can use stock images, web images, AI images, illustrations, and so on. So we'll say for this example, we'll use AI images. Image style, we can choose what we want. I'm going to leave it as it is, but you can drop a style in there if you want to be sort of more in keeping with what you're trying to create. And then you can choose the AI model. Again, I'm just going to leave this as it is. You can play about if you want to. Come back up, you can see this has shown us all the cards is created. Let's now hit generate, and that's going to take the design and the information we've just kind of told it, generate those AI images, put the slides together for us, and actually then create the animations and things for you. So you don't need to do any of it. Then after about probably a minute or so, we now have our kind of deck all set up for us. And everything is completely editable. So if you don't like the images, the text, the wording, anything at all, you can easily come in and change all of that information. So you click inside, change what you want, see it carries on the styling and everything has been included, and it's all been set up for us. I think it's pretty cool. You can use the AI if you want to add another card. You can add a card just into a blank. And you also add from a template, which there are an abundance of different templates. So you can easily customize and expand what you have here. You've also got the option to add notes in. So if you are presenting this in a kind of, pitch deck kind of presentation, you can add your notes in there as well, which you can have on hand. There we've got some options down at the right-hand side that allows to add things like charts and diagrams, videos, and so on. So you can customize what you have here. This can be your starting point. Then when you're happy, you can simply hit present, and we now have a fully realized presentation or pitch deck with animations in place, with images in place, any of the changes we want to make, and we can hand this off to the client. The cool thing with this is, and I was talking to my partner today because this is something that she's going to be looking at using, because you can share this and send a link over, you could easily use something like Zoom, screen share your presentation, send them a link so they can have a copy of it as well, and then you could talk them through the whole presentation and have a great looking setup on screen at the same time you're talking, fully animated. You could just easily go through all the different steps and stages and so on and give an amazing presentation. I think this is super useful in the right scenarios. If you have no use for it, no problem. But if you do, I think this is a great way of able to speed up that whole process and get started for zero cost whatsoever, with probably more than enough for most users. Okay, so we've gone through the wireframing and everything there. We've gone to the pitch if that's something you need. Next thing we're going to take a look at how do we take that wireframe if we're using bricks or something like that and then start to realize it. Well, the first thing we're going to do is I would recommend, and I've already covered this in previous videos, is have a blueprint set up. A blueprint website basically has your theme, your plugins and everything installed and ready. Some activated if you need them to do the development process, some are not activated for things like SEO and security and so on that you'll activate when you launch the site. For this whole process, I use InstaWP because it means that I can spin up a copy of my blueprint in less than a minute in most use cases, and it's just super easy. So for example, I've got my bricks blueprint here. All I need to do is click these three dots, choose the option to clone, give it a name if I want to, set it as a temporary or a reserved site. If it's a development site, I'll leave it as reserved. I'll hit clone, and that will now go and clone that site for me with all those plugins installed. One's activated, they're activated, and all I need to do is go in some cases, put the serial code in so I can get up and running with those plugins, and I have my site set up. My 404 pages set up, search results pages, headers, footers set up, homepage set up, all those things are done for me. So I have all that done, save myself a couple of hours of time, and I can hit the ground running, make some changes to my core framework, to the colors, bringing those in from the style guide or the brand guide that I've got for any particular client, and I'm ready to start building the site out in probably less than 15 to 20 minutes, saving me hours of time. So once that's done, the next stage is to take the design that we have, the wireframe design that we have inside Relume, and start to realize that inside, in this example, Bricks Builder. Now, one of the cool things is I use a library called Brixies, and this is a wireframe library, and the nice thing about this is a lot of the designs here are very similar to what we have in Relume. So I can take those Relume wireframes and I can realize something very close. In some instances, I may need to make some changes. In other instances, I may need to start from scratch. But if I can get 75% of each page built out using Brixies wireframes, I can do that super quickly. And then I can take the pre-approved layout colors and so on that we have as part of the whole process, and I can start to bring those into the design and just tweak what I need. Let me give you an example. Let's take this hero section that we have here. We've got an image on the left-hand side, we've got some text, some smaller text underneath, and we've got some buttons underneath that. A very typical kind of hero section, but one that works well in lots of use cases. Let's jump over into Brixies and let's filter things down. We're going to go to our hero sections. And you can see this now loads in 75 currently hero sections. So there's a lot to choose from. So let's go through and find a hero section that's very similar to what we have inside Relume. So after a few moments, you can see hero section 9 has all the elements that we need. Let's open this up so we can take a proper look at it. Image on the right-hand side in this example, text, our heading, our text, and our 2 buttons on the left-hand side, which we can easily flip those inside Brix itself. And if we need to put in the image that we've used in our style guide, we can do just that. Same thing goes for the colors and everything else. So once we set those up with Core Framework, which is my CSS framework of choice, connect up with Brix and everything linked up, videos for all of this in the description down below, I can hit the ground running and I can get my pages put together super quickly. So let's quickly recap on what we've done here and why you may want to take a look at doing something similar to this in your work process. First of all, we've used AI in Relume to set up and create our sitemap. Then we've taken that sitemap and we fleshed it out into a wireframe. We've adjusted that wireframe to get it in line with what we want. Then we've got the style guide and everything else set up, which we can then offload and show to our client to get their feedback on it, whether it's the wireframe version or it's the kind of fully featured style guide version. Then, if we need to pitch to a client, we've got a pitch deck we can set up using Gamma. Again, we can use this for free. Then we've got InstaWP, which allows me to spin up a blueprint copy of my WordPress website in a matter of a minute or so with all the things I need installed and set up, ready to hit the ground running. I can then tweak those colors inside my CSS framework. They'll bring in the brand colors that we've agreed upon with the client. And then finally, I can use something like Brixies for the wireframes to then start building out the majority of the page templates that I need to then create and fully realize that website. Putting all those things together, I've probably cut the project down to about 50%, if not more, which means that I'm more profitable. It means I can take on more projects. I can charge more and spend less time building. Hopefully you can see why this is such a super useful process. But you can obviously substitute any of the tools that I've talked about in this video for other things. I just want to bring to your attention how you can use these kinds of tools to streamline your process and how AI, instead of stealing your job, can help you streamline your work process and make you ultimately more profitable. As always though, I'd love to get your feedback on what I've covered in this video. Drop some comments down below, and if you've got any things you want to share with me, drop some links down there as well. As always, my name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.